And we are rolling. If you build it, they will come, right, folks? Here is my cinema rig for the feature film. Going to be heading out on day one, is our first day of shooting tomorrow, bright and early, and I just wanted to show you guys my rig setup for how we're going to be doing things out there. It's a lot is going to happen on sticks. A lot is going to happen on the slider. I have a 4-foot carbon fiber slider, and a lot of it's also going to be handheld. Now, when I say handheld, I am talking about this bad boy right here. This is my Ready Rig, and this is how I shoot a lot of run and gun, live event, documentary style shoots that I do. And it's just a little easier for me. And as you'll see here, I put a Manfrotto quick release plate on top of a dovetail. And it just makes it a little easier. I can just snap this off. Here's my Manfrotto quick release plate. I can pop off this rig, the BlackMagic rig. It's a little cumbersome, right? So I'll put it on this first, and then since this is a snap-in dovetail, this just slides back there and then snaps on once I'm wearing this thing. It just makes it a little easier, because some people are like, why do you put, why use the Manfrotto quick release plate at all? Just have the dovetail plate directly attached to the bottom of the camera. And it's a little cumbersome that way when you have this on. And also, not to mention, I don't have multiple dovetail quick release plates. These are quite a bit more expensive than normal just Manfrotto quick release plates. And I like everything to be uniform. I like to be able to go from shoulder rig right to Ready Rig, then pop it on the gimbal. The gimbal is a Manfrotto quick release plate as well with the Tiltable G2X, right? And or the slider is Manfrotto quick release plate. So I don't like to have multiple things and anywhere where I have to take out my tool and unscrew quick release plates. It just seems a little cumbersome to me, a little much. So that's why it's like that. But also, the dovetail makes it easier to snap this on once you're wearing it, because when you're wearing it, you don't want to be with this little bit of a heavy rig. You don't want to be messing around. Am I in the plate, sliding back and forth? You'd rather just drop it down in there like so into the dovetail, right? And it just makes things a little easier. Plus, it brings the height up a little bit off of here, and then you can have some room when you're tightening and loosening this quick release plate. So yeah, there is going to be a lot of cool handheld shots with the Ready Rig, but then plus with this, and this is a kind of the go-to of everything I need on here. I have my wooden camera, Zipbox Pro Matte Box. I've done a full review of this over on YouTube, and because I like to use lots of filters. I have my Accsoon Cine Eye up here for Video Village, because I like to send the signal out to my iPad Pro, and that's a nice little Video Village. I've done a whole video on the Accsoon Cine Eye on top of how I built my little Video Village rig for the iPad. So if you haven't seen those videos, I'll put links to them down below, but I highly recommend you check those out if you're interested in a super dirt cheap, affordable Video Village. Of course, you have to already have an iPad. Or, I guess any kind of tablet. I don't know. I only really own Apple products and only have tested Apple products with the Accsoon Cine Eye, so I can't really speak for how it has compatibility with Android. And I have my, I'm going to be doing a review of this on YouTube. This is the Fotga DP3000. This is the 4th edition follow focus, and I got this for a few reasons. It has hard stops, 2 hard stops for A and B stops for pulling precise, accurate focus marks. Some people, you might see this and say, well, what the heck, I thought you're using the Tilted Nucleus Nano. And that is great. It's a complete must when on the gimbal, of course, but in terms of the feature film, we're going to be super pressed for time, and every time you swap a lens, you have to recalibrate the Nano, and then I only have 2 batteries for that thing. They do last a long time, but I don't want to deal with batteries dying. I mean, day 5, for instance, is going to be like a 15-hour day, so it's like, dude, I don't want to be dealing, any little bit of time added is detrimental, right? So yeah, you say, well, dude, it only takes like 30, 45 seconds to calibrate the Nano. But each time you swap a lens, you add that up, and that's going to add up very, very quickly. By the end of the day, you'll go, I spend over a half hour calibrating the lens for the Nano. It's just pointless. It's a pointless luxury. If you're not on the gimbal, I just didn't see a plan for it. So that's why I did a lot of research, found this little follow focus. I'm going to be doing a review on it on YouTube. It's not new by any means. It's been out for quite some time, but I think it's very, very nice. On top of that, I have this little doohad here. If you've been watching my videos for a long time, you've seen this. This adjusts the height for my monitor, and then here I can push it back and forth on top of being able to leave the height and also move it here and here. And what's nice about this too is if we go out into the sun, I can just push this around like this, grab my little side finder, pop this on here like so, and now we're ready to go for the sun outdoors, right? So, and then you can just tilt this back like this, and now no problems. I've had a lot of people ask me, they say, Justin, what's the point of having another monitor when BlackMagic's already given you this big, nice screen? Well, there's a couple downsides to this. One is because basically if you plan on shooting all day, you pretty much need V-mount, in my opinion, with this particular camera. And plus the V-mount, you know, it hinders your access to the screen somewhat. But the main reason I like to have a second monitor is because I like to have one monitor completely clean, nothing on it, and then my other monitor with all my scopes, false color, my waveform, my RGB, histogram, the grids, whatever I want. And that's what's beautiful about the SmallHD. You can have tons and tons of custom pages for whatever scopes you have going on, but I also like to look at them both at the same time. Maybe even my clean monitor has, you know, like a basic Rec 709 LUT, so I can see kind of what it's going to look like as a base grade for me to start color grading with when I drop it into DaVinci, right? So I like to see both those things at the same time, watching for false color, for exposure on the fly, and also just seeing the clean feed. And what's great about the BlackMagic is you can send out a clean feed to the HDMI. And so then I have a clean feed. I don't have any of the garbage that's on the BlackMagic screen. And then I can set up my menus on the SmallHD however I like. And then with the HDMI out of the SmallHD, I can pick and choose what exactly I'm sending to the Accsoon Cine Eye. So for instance, a lot of times what I do is I send out a signal with the Rec 709 LUT from Buttery Films on that. And also probably the aspect ratio frame guidelines, and that's all I'm sending out to Video Village through the Accsoon Cine Eye straight to my iPad Pro, and that's what the director is watching. And so that way they kind of see it, they're not looking at a flat image, and plus the aspect ratio guidelines are on there, and they can kind of see a pretty good baseline of what their actual image is going to look like in the long run. So that's super nice of having that workflow from the BlackMagic to the SmallHD and then out to the Accsoon Cine Eye for Video Village. Down here, you'll see I have my SSD. I have the universal holder. Now, there's no cables on this, and that's primarily because I rigged this up and kept it clean just for the purpose of this video. Cables tend to get a little messy, and I just didn't want the cables on here for the video. For filming, I don't mind, but down here, it's just easier for me to show you guys if there's not cables hanging around and zip tied around. It's just extra work that I didn't really need to do for the purpose of this video. You get it, you know there's going to be cables here. But for this one, this is a universal SSD mount from SmallRig, and I have the universal one. I've talked about this before, but just in case you missed it, I have a T5, and I also have a little G drive SSD. And it's just nice to be able to have multiple SSD cards down in here. You know, if you're swapping one out or whatever, you can keep recording throughout your day. And that sits just really nice down there. Obviously the V-mount back here. I do keep a Freetail Evoke Pro V60 SD card in here, and this is for when I have to go to gimbal. I like to keep it light, and I can record directly to this card V60 and do constant quality Q5, no problems. And if we have to do anything beyond, you know, 30 frames per second, I can drop down and do B-RAW 12:1, no problem. However, for the feature, one, I wouldn't probably ever do anything 12:1, and two, we don't really have any gimbal shots that need to be done in slow-mo. We have a few slow-mo shots, but they're going to be primarily handheld / ready rig. So yeah, that's a little thing we have going on here. I have my Zeiss lens on here with the Metabones XL. So I'll be doing a little review on the XL, on this follow focus, everything when I get back into town. But yeah, I just wanted a little quick demonstration of this wild and crazy rig. If you're interested in any of these parts, they're all available on in my filmmaker kit bag. There's always a link down to that below, where I just kind of, you know, it's an online virtual camera bag of literally every piece of gear I own for lighting, grip, camera, everything. Okay. Okay, so this right here is the main thing I wanted to share with all of my Patreon folks is like the cinematographer's show Bible, right? Obviously, there's a show Bible that the scriptee has, and that's the script supervisor, you know, for following along in the script, making sure that no important elements are dropped out of, you know, the script. And the script supervisor is kind of there as a liaison for the editor, just to write down, do circle takes for the takes that the director liked the most and keep track of all that stuff. And then the director usually has one too, you know, with whatever's written in his notes and blocking things and ideas and all of that. But then I like to make one too as a cinematographer, because especially for a job like this one where the director has asked me to make the shot lists. That's not always the go. I mean, I've been on plenty of shoots where I don't have to do anything. You know, the director just tells me to show up with my gear and my lights and stuff, and we just make it happen. But this is not the first time I've had a director ask me to make the shot lists. Now, if you're wondering how I make the shot lists, there is an amazing app called Shot Lister, and I believe I don't know if it's only for iOS. I don't know. I'm primarily an iOS user, so you might have to do your own research on that. But it's great if you own an iPad. It is amazing. Shot Lister is really great for making all your shot lists, and then you can even send it out and use it to what's really cool is if your whole crew has it on their phones, because it's not just for iPad, it's for the iPhone. It's just for iOS across the board. So if you have it on your iPhone and your entire crew has the app, you can literally update the shot list on the day of. Like, let's say you're on set and you're like, oh man, we gotta move scene 7 to the end of the day. Well, I can do that just by clicking and dragging it down in the app, and it automatically syncs and updates for that particular project across the board for anyone that's synced up to it, which is pretty cool. However, the downside is you do have to be on the subscription pro service for that to happen. But I don't know if your whole crew has to be subscribed for them to link up or not. I don't know. But I have been using it. It's been a great tool just to simply make the shot list and then export it out as a PDF and email it to the director. And it is very quick. You can still organize and reorder it and set how long each take is going to take and figure that out. And it's really, really nice for that. So basically what I've done in here is I put my shot lists in here for the first week on top of just the script in here and just making all my notes. Because generally that's what I do. I read the script one time, you know, when I first got the job, read the script all the way through just as, you know, as an audience member, I guess, and try to, you know, see what's going on in my brain. And that's when my brain starts getting images and things. And then I go back and do a more technical read through of it, making notes on each scene of, you know, shots that I think would be interesting, you know, looking for the emotional beats, you know, and looking for the overall tone of the script, but also so each scene has its own little emotional tone and beat as well. And so it's nice to do that and make notes on that as you're going through the script. And also just making notes about maybe what lens I want to choose. Like here I put exit back to extreme wide high angle, right? Just little notes for myself. So when I go back and make the shot list for each scene, I've already put in notes in here and have an idea of how I want that scene to look, you know, shot size wise. When you're talking about shot size, you're talking about like, is it a medium close up? Is it a wide angle, et cetera, et cetera. And then you can figure out what lens choice will work best with that, meaning as in what focal length you want to choose. A big thing too to decide right away with the director is figuring out beyond, like, obviously the first thing is you want to figure out like what codec you're going to be shooting in. You know, are we going to shoot this in the highest resolution of 4K DCI, or are we going to shoot this in 1080p? You know, it's good to figure out those things on top of the aspect ratio. What aspect ratio would you like? Do you want to shoot 240? Are we going to do anamorphic? We're going to do classic 185? Like, what aspect ratio are we going to shoot in? So you figure all that stuff out first before you even start taking the notes in the script as you're doing like your technical read of it. And these little flags here are just flags that these are just the scene numbers. So when we're on set on the day, I can just quickly jump to that scene while we're going through the shot list here. Another thing is here in the little side little pocket here of my little show Bible, this is just, you know, like a pretty nice 3-ring binder I picked up at Staples. Just trying to stay a little organized on this since this is my first feature shoot. In here, is a camera log, camera reports. Now I have this for my assistant. He's like, Tristan is like my first AC, also a second AC, also a key grip, right? So he's essentially doing 3 jobs in one, while me, I'm being cinematographer, I'm being camera op, I'm also being a first AC, and I'm the gaffer, right? So I'm doing 4 jobs, Tristan's doing 2 jobs. So, you know, it's a very, because it is such an ultra low budget feature, really minimal crew and all of that. So I wanted to make sure that I do have Tristan doing the camera logs. Now this is usually on a full budget set, the second AC is usually in charge of these camera logs. If not, he will assign it to like the camera PA or something like that. And basically, you're just putting down in here for each scene, you know, what lens we're on, what stop we're on. If you're on sticks, you know, usually measure the height of the camera off of the ground. You know, the stop, what filtration is in the matte box, all the camera settings, white balance is super important, all of that stuff. And that way, if you have to go back and reshoot that scene or decide to do a pickup within that scene, we can refer back to these camera logs and see like, okay, these are all the settings we were on, this was the lens we were on, and that way our pickups will actually match with the stuff we already shot prior, right? So this is just like CYA, cover your own ass kind of stuff, right? Like insurance. But I think for this feature, because we're gonna be moving so quickly, it's very possible we'll have to go back and do some pickups, or it's very possible that we run out of time and have to follow up the next day, anything like that. And that's where the cool feature of the SmallHD screen grab can come in handy too. I'm gonna try to remember to take screen grabs at the top of every scene so I can see exactly where people are lining up, just so we have it for reference, so we can refer to it in case we need to go back and do pickups of that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the SmallHD screen grab, I've done a pretty big review on SmallHD monitor overall. It was my 702 OLED monitor video. If you haven't seen that, I'll put a link to that down in the description below as well. Now, in terms of this shot list, some other tools that I use to prepare myself is Sunseeker. I've talked about Sunseeker a lot in videos. It's a really, really good app. All you need to know is the address to the location you're going to be shooting at. Plug that into Sunseeker. I'm pretty sure Sunseeker is a free app. If not, it's only a couple bucks. It is highly beneficial. It's even been highly beneficial for my photography. You know, just finding out where the sun is going to be hitting on that location that I want to take pictures at. And, you know, it just helps immensely with video, with photos, anything to do with where you can track the sun. And because we have so many exterior shots with this feature film, and not even with exterior shots, even with the short film we just shot last weekend, I mean, it had, you know, floor to ceiling windows. It's really good to track the sun. Through Sunseeker, we were able to schedule our entire day around the sun because we wanted to utilize the nighttime, but also make sure we had enough hours in the day to get all of our day shots. Can't recommend that app enough. Can't recommend Shot Lister app enough. These videos aren't sponsored by anyone. Nobody pays me to say these things. I'm just sharing the tools that I like to use with all of you, right? Just keep that in mind. Yeah, and that's pretty much the go-to right there. You know, I'm gonna be keeping kind of a daily log. I don't know yet if I want to do like podcast style, taking notes at the end of each night on the drive home. I don't know if maybe I've also toyed with the idea of, you know, taking the GH5 with us with a little lens and having Tristan, you know, video me and videoing himself kind of on the ride home, because I would really like to document at the end of each night, you know, the kind of the process and things, and both of us together taking notes on it. You know, it could be interesting. And I think then compiling those together and having a cool little video at the end of each week for the Patreon video. Right now, it's only scheduled for 2 weeks, but I have a sneaky suspicion that we might get another half a week out of it, just because it's a lot that he's trying to do in such a very, very short amount of time. And right now, I think it's just a little overly ambitious, and he's not really taking my words of caution seriously. But I know once we go in and start shooting, he's going to realize real quick, like, there's a lot more to this. I mean, obviously, he's made movies. He has movies on Amazon Prime already, as well as I do. But the difference is that I think the majority of his stuff has been pretty run and gun. Now, I'm okay with doing run and gun, but at the same time, this is my first feature, so I'm going to be obviously taking a lot of compromises. I'm going to be cutting a lot of the shots that I put in these shot lists. I do realize that. I've fully accepted that, but I would like to at least be able to make the shots somewhat desirable and nice looking, because you know you want to walk away with this stuff for your reel. You know, I'm doing this job for well below my normal day rate, as well as, you know, Tristan is as well, you know, so we're taking a pay cut on this, so we want to walk away with something that we can actually use for the future, you know, hence, you know, footage for our reels and things like that. So yeah, other than that, guys, thank you so much for being a member of this Patreon group. I've toyed back and forth about ditching the Patreon altogether and just sticking straight to YouTube. But you guys can let me know if you think like, hey man, this isn't really worth it, or whatever the case may be. And then, yeah, maybe I was a little bit over ambitious about the Patreon and we just ditch it and just go back to the YouTube world. The only downside to that is like I can't really talk about legit jobs that I'm working on YouTube. I've tried that in the past and it didn't end out. It didn't go very well in the means of, you know, it's just, I got some interesting feedback on it. I don't think that's a wise thing on my behalf as a growing professional to keep doing that, right? So anything that is legit job related on jobs I get paid for, I want to keep exclusively here on the Patreon. And who knows, hopefully it'll grow and get bigger. And if not, we'll just keep it a really cool, nice, small little group. And I'm okay with that. You know, as long as I can reach one person, that's all that matters. So as always, thank you guys for all the support, and give me some feedback. Let me know your thoughts and things, comments, concerns. And until next time, that's a wrap.